So for day 2 of the class, remember this is only a 2-week-long class. We get some material very quickly in only 2 weeks. It may be too quick, so to remind you, these lectures, I'm recording them, and if you want access, you can send me an email right over here, and I'll send you a link with the videos. That link will have the videos from last week, and it'll have the video I'm going to record today, and you'll be able to replay the video. Even after the class ends, you'll still be able to return to that link and keep watching those videos to refresh what you did. So just making a note of that. And what the goals are at the moment is we're going to use WooCommerce plugin for e-commerce. We're going to use a plugin that adds extra features to WordPress, and the extra feature is shopping carts. But wait a minute, if we use WooCommerce, it needs to be added to a WordPress site. So we'll say install WordPress to have a basic site. Okay, so before using the WooCommerce plugin, we need before using WooCommerce, we need WordPress. We need the WordPress site. Okay, well, if you were working on your own computer at home, you install the software, and then it's there ready for you to use every time you want. In our computers here, because it's a public lab, the thing that happens is that every time you turn the computer off, every time you restart the computer, it resets back to factory settings. So all that we did last time of installing WordPress and plugins or whatever was erased. So in this lab, what we first have to do, first of all, is install XAMPP. So before we do the plugin, we need to install XAMPP, and then we can install WordPress, and then we can use WooCommerce. So that's what we need to do first. Your computer should be on, and yours not. There's a button on the front. So if there is already a computer, I would recommend jumping onto it instead of waiting for that one to start, because I'm going to get moving on here. But what we're going to do here is go ahead and open up your web browser, and we're going to you're going to search for XAMPP, XAMPP, and that's going over to the ApacheFriends.org website. Should be one of the first results, XAMPP installer. So when you find that result, you can click on the link. I guess there's a download directly there, but I usually just go to the parent link. I'm there at the home page of XAMPP, and then there's the download XAMPP for Windows. And remember when we did this last week, you download it, you double-click it to install it, you just click next, 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 next. You go through all of the next. So that's our first step there. Take a moment to do that. If you need help, raise your hand, we'll help you out, but that's what you need to do first. We don't have the software installed. It's just because we saw last week that the software that I was planning to use, for whatever reason, wasn't working, so we're using an alternative software. So go ahead and start the XAMPP installation. Once that is done, then we will do the next steps. So you click OK, you click Next, you click Next, you click Next.
Where did you download it?
If you want to, you can turn off the XAMPP part right here, but then just click Continuing right there. When you download a file, it probably downloaded to your desktop. Well, downloading a file is a basic action to do, so.
Okay, if it does not click here.
Go ahead and go back to your
I did.
It will get popped up down here. So
simply less computer system than the same.
Is he just showing that stuff?
Yes, you can do the editing.
So that's what we have to say.
Can I run?
Yes. Alright, so we just need to wait for this to download and install, and then we'll proceed to the next item on the agenda. We just need to download the software here, and we're ready. So eventually that will complete. And then there will be the option to start the control panel. We'll do that in just a moment. So while yours is coming along, again, the big idea here is install WAMP with XAMPP with defaults, and then install WordPress to have a basic site. Well, to install WordPress, in our case, it's copy the WordPress folder into the htdocs folder. We'll do that in a moment after your XAMPP is finished. This is creating an app on the computer, and it's creating a specific folder, the htdocs folder. And we're going to copy the WordPress folder. I already have the WordPress folder downloaded. We will just copy it into the right place. In our case, we're going to take from the C drive, the WordPress folder, and then copy it over to C XAMPP htdocs. So this is where it should be on Windows. On the Mac, it's slightly different. It's in a different place. But in a moment, when you're up to this point, and I'll show you here, we will copy the WordPress file into the htdocs file. Well, in addition to that, remember I said WordPress is one of these types of advanced modern websites that stores a lot of information. There's a lot of data about your your website, your users, your products, and such. So does anyone remember there was a part of the process when we were about to set up WordPress? There was also part of the process that we needed to set up a receptacle or a place where we were storing the data. Anyone remember that? Does that sound familiar, maybe? PHPMyAdmin for the database. Yes. So set up a database via PHPMyAdmin to install WordPress 2. We'll do that together also. And that one was found at, remember this, localhost. So localhost is the little portal that you go to, the address on the web browser where you would see the various aspects of your site. Let's have PHPMyAdmin. So we'll do that in a moment. How's everyone's screen here? Did it get to the point about ready to launch? Did you get to a screen like mine? Right here. If it says completing the setup, and then I have, do you want to start the control panel? You want to say finish. Yes. Let's start the control panel. And here you pick your language. And we have this control panel. So what were the ones that we needed to turn on? Yeah, these first two ones exactly, Apache and MySQL. So let's start both of those. So one becomes green, and the other one becomes green. Okay, so if I was saying that localhost is where you manage things, let's go to your web browser now, and let's go to the address http://localhost. So I'm going to close some of these other windows, and then I'll go to localhost. Now one thing, because localhost is sort of a special address, sometimes when you type it in the web browser, it suggests for you to search localhost. I don't want to search for it on the internet. That doesn't make sense. I want to type it and then press enter. So if it gives you pop-ups maybe about suggestions, you probably want to ignore them. Just type localhost and press enter. And then that should load up the localhost dashboard. If it says welcome to XAMPP right here, you're in the right place. Is everyone in the right place? Did it say that? Localhost on your web browser. So I had in the notes, okay, install XAMPP with defaults, that's done. Install WordPress to have a basic site. This has a few steps. We need to copy the folder. We need to set up the database in either order. I wrote it in this order first of all. Put the folder in the right place and then make the database. It doesn't matter the order that you do it, as long as you have both of these, but let me just switch them around actually. So we've installed WordPress. Now we're going to set up the database with PHPMyAdmin. Do you see that there's a button at the very top right corner of localhost that says PHPMyAdmin? So from the Welcome to XAMPP screen right here, click PHPMyAdmin. So we get this screen. Looks pretty complex, but what did we do last week in this screen? We're making a new database. Yes, so right here under Databases, or clicking New, same thing. So click on Databases, and we're going to make a new database. Let's call the database My Site. You can call this whatever you want, and if you have multiple sites, they're going to have different names. You're not going to reuse the same name WordPress over and over. That'll cause conflicts with the data from one site with another. You should use different names, and these names can be anything. So I'm going to call it My Site, and you need to remember that there will be upper cases and lower cases, and those things matter. So if you call your database my site with a capital M, later on, when we refer to it in our WordPress setup, you need to type it with a capital. So I would recommend keep it all lowercase, because then that's less to remember. My site, lowercase, and then we'll click Create. So you get a little yellow flash pop up for a moment, and then it moves you over here to say, yep, you just created a database called My Site, or whatever you choose to call it. And there's no data in this database yet. We have a new database so that our WordPress site can exist. Right, did that work? Did everyone get a database? Okay, so back on the notes. I'll give you these notes at the end of the day, of course. So, okay, set up a database. I can do a check mark on that. Copy the WordPress folder into the htdocs folder. So I've got this WordPress folder ready for you. We're going to copy it into this certain folder over here. So you can minimize all your windows. Don't close them, but just minimize them, get them out of the way. And let's go over to this PC on the desktop. We'll open up this PC, then we will open up local disk. Double-click local disk. And then we've got a folder right here, WordPress. You want to right-click copy. Not cut, we want to copy it.
It's only 40 megabytes.
Yeah, it's pretty small software. So I'm going to copy it, and then open up, double-click XAMPP folder right next to it. And then we see htdocs, double-click to open htdocs. And then on the empty spot, you can right-click and select paste. So that'll take a moment to copy over. Once that copy is over, we'll be ready to go. Anyone having any trouble? Everyone on track? So this is going to, it's copying from one place to another. And then the step after that will be install WordPress at localhost/WordPress. So we'll do that in a moment. Once this copy is over, then we need to go back to the web browser, and we will, once that copy is over, we'll go back to the web browser, go to that link, and we'll start the WordPress setup. So in my case, it finished copying, so I will check that. If it copied properly, if you see inside of the htdocs folder, the WordPress folder that we just copied, that's good. We'll go back to the web browser, we'll go to localhost/WordPress. So up on the address, localhost/WordPress. And remember, the end of the address right here is based on the name of the folder. So if you copy another copy into it, and it's called WP1, well, I would go to localhost/WP1. The name of the folder is that final part of the web address. So let's go to localhost/WordPress, press Enter. Okay, so when we go through this part, install WordPress, you will need database name. In our case, we just made a database called My Site. You're going to need database user. Because we're using XAMPP, it's going to be root. And we'll say here default in XAMPP. It's actually the default also in most of the other software, if you use, we were going to use MAMP in the class, but for whatever reason in our computers it didn't work. But if you have to use MAMP because XAMPP doesn't work, this is the same thing. The database user will be root. Database password. Anyone remember about the special thing about the password when we set this up last week?
Empty.
Empty, blank, nothing. So I'll write here nothing, but you're not going to write nothing. You're going to write empty. It's not. You're not going to write empty. It's nothing. The password will be nothing at all. The other two items that are going to be on the screen, leave those as defaults. I won't even note them. Just leave them as defaults. I'll say other two boxes, defaults, whatever they are. Don't worry what they are. Okay, so we're going to need the name of your database, which we just made. I'm telling you what the root and password, what the user and password will be. So back here, choose the language you want for your site. Click Continue. It reminds you this is what you need. We know it. Click Let's Go. And here it is. So my database is not called WordPress. I didn't make a database called WordPress. I made a database called what? My site. What's the username and password? Root and nothing, none. And these two, leave those as is. Now last week I thought I made my own user and I thought I made my own password last week to access my site. Yes, we did do that. After this first step of installing the WordPress software, on the next screen, that's when it will ask us what admin account do you want, what password, what email on the next screen. So if you remember typing two different passwords and usernames, we did. One is to access the database, and this is just default, this is standard. But on the next screen, click on that next button, and then if it says all right, we're ready to go. If it says some error, well, you probably called your database with a capital letter, and then you didn't put a capital letter when it asked you a moment ago, so you can press back. But if it says all right for me, I'm going to run. And here's the part where you can then customize it. Here's the part where you can say, what's the name of my site? What is the name of my administrator account to log in? What's my password? Don't keep this password. Change that password. You're not going to remember it. And even if you write it down, you're going to miswrite, like you wrote, that's a lowercase t, and that's an uppercase t. So this password right here, it's an amazing password, but you're never going to remember it. I'm never going to remember it. So you're going to change it. And what I would recommend here is, on their site, whatever your site is about. I'm just using Victor's Bakery. So let's say my fictional business is about selling cookies and cupcakes and so forth. So it's got the name, and then username and password, whatever you want. But for me, for this class, I'm going to be admin and password, which are terrible examples. But just for the class, for me to remember, that's what I'll set up. If you were doing this on your real website, on the real internet, you would not use those values. Those are the values that are going to get you hacked in 10 seconds. You want to have something real. Yes?
So this password is for the whole thing, right? Not only for this site title, right? If I have
It's
many sites.
each WordPress site has its own username and password. So this only applies to Victor's Bakery. If I make something else later, Victor's Web Design, it will have its own username and password, which you can make the same, but you should have different emails, different passwords for each account. I need to confirm that this is a bad password, so turn on the check mark. Put your email here about retrieving your password. This is where I don't. If I have, my Gmail address or whatever, I would put it in here. My Yahoo Mail, retrieve password. That's the purpose of that. And this last checkbox doesn't really matter. Our website right now isn't actually on the real internet, so the search engines won't even see it. That's what that's about. So that only matters when your website is live. If it's a real victorsbakery.com, not on localhost. Localhost is not on the real internet. Once you fill those out with whatever you want, click Install.
Can we copy your installation at home
You
and
mean
finish?
start it at home and finish it here, or start it here and finish it here?
Finish here, can we copy it to home?
Yes, we will have it towards the end of the day. I'll show you the process for that. But yes, you can start the project here and take it home. We didn't do it last time, just we ran out of time. But today, because we will have a more complete website, we probably want to take it with us, and I'm going to talk about that, how to take it with us near the end of the day.
For that reason, would not be nice to discourage search engines?
Well, you're still going to take it home and work on it on your own XAMPP, on your own computer. It might not be on the internet yet, so it doesn't matter yet until you put it on the real live internet.
And is it possible to change later?
Yes, all of these settings can be changed at any point. This will be in the settings screen, so I'll make a note to remind us where that's at. And we'll look at that in a moment. If mine says success, hopefully yours does as well. Click Log In. And now go ahead and log in with the account you just created. So we have the install WordPress. I'll check that. And then we'll make a note. Dashboard. So just a quick reminder there that when you want to, if you close the browser and then go do something else and want to come back, you need to go to the dashboard of your site, which is localhost / the name of the folder / wp-admin. That's standard, that's universal, it's always wp-admin. Whatever your folder is inside of htdocs, wp-admin to get to the dashboard. And then to view the site, it's localhost / the name of the folder, in our case WordPress. So what I'm seeing right now after I click Login, I'm seeing this screen. I'm seeing wp-admin screen. So let's pause there. Does everyone have that? Does everyone see their dashboard? Did you install it, WordPress? Anyone having trouble? If we see the dashboard, we're in very good shape. Okay, so then that gets us to the next point over here. Use WooCommerce plugin for e-commerce. The sub-steps here are we go to Dashboard, plugins, add new. WooCommerce is a plugin. I mentioned before, a plugin is like a little app that gives you extra features. Right now that we install WordPress, it can do a lot, but it doesn't have the e-commerce features because not everyone needs an e-commerce site. So not every feature is active by default. We can activate more features via plugins. So let's try that out. Let's go here in the dashboard. Let's go to plugins. If you hover over plugins, then you see add new. Here from the plugins directory, here's some featured ones that said, well, you might want this, you might want that. There's a little description about what this is. Here's a health check monitor. Cool, what is that? There's a classic editor. Okay, great. At the top we see popular. Take a look at popular. So there's 49,000 items. It says here at the top, 49,000 plugins, 49 little mini apps that do various things. And there are a lot of duplicates in terms of, here's a plugin that makes a cool slideshow. And then someone else makes their own plugin, here's our cool slideshow. Someone else says, no, here's our cool slideshow. So there's 49,000 items that could be installed to the site. To remind you, some notes on plugins. Plugins are mini apps or custom code that add more features to your site. They are made by single people or big companies or official from WordPress or someone working in their pajamas at home. So anyone can make a plugin. It's a little bit of software that is programmed and then uploaded to this repository, and then you can get it. I might have mentioned about cost last time. Does anyone remember what I said about cost? Did I say something about cost?
Yeah, most of them free and some.
Most free and some you pay for. Most freemium is the better term. Yep, freemium. Most freemium and some you pay for. So most have most features active, but some niche or extra features you pay for. The plugin we're about to use is completely free. For most people, the free version will do everything that you need. You'll be able to have inventory, photos for the product, prices, all of the basic stuff that is usually there for e-commerce. You'll be able to accept payments from credit cards, debit cards, etc. You'll be able to add tax, shipping and handling, all that stuff. All of that is the free aspect. Where you then might need to pay is if you need to do advanced things. We might need to do like product bundles. Let's say for Victor's Bakery, I'm going to sell, cupcakes and milk. I want to sell a bundle that one product is cupcakes and one product is milk. Well, maybe a person can buy milk by itself. Fine, they buy that. But when they buy the cupcake, it comes with milk, so those two products are linked. That's a little bit more advanced. Some of those advanced things are not in the free version. Not everyone needs that. And if you do, well, we will see the cost of these. But again, it usually takes money to make money. You usually cannot do every single thing for free because overall, so far, XAMPP has been free, WordPress has been free, themes are free and such, and plugins are often free, but like the advanced features, you might have to pay some amount. And there's just such a huge range, like from $5 to like $50, usually one-time fee. It's going to depend on the plugin. It's going to depend on the person in their pajamas that programmed the thing, how much they want to charge for. There's no set standard of cost. So I was just looking at popular. There's also recommended. WooCommerce is right there. But let's say we didn't see it there. Let's say we wanted to search. Let's say you were trying to do this on your own and the instructor is not guiding you to a certain thing. And let's say later you want to add some sort of feature. So up on the top right here, under search, let's search for e-commerce. Just as an example. Maybe later I want to add Facebook features or install Instagram into it or something. I bet you if you search those keywords, you'll find plugins on whatever topic you're looking for. Yes?
Can you, let's say you have different websites, can you choose like one to use WooCommerce and for the other one use another one? Or
Yes. Every WordPress website that you have is an independent entity. So on one site it could have certain features and plugins and designs and such, and then on another one completely different. With a different plugin. Maybe WooCommerce for site 1, and then Shopify or whatever for site 2. Yeah. So when I search here e-commerce, I get 1,600 results. And we already know in this class which one we want. But let's say you didn't know. Let's say you're searching for something else. You have all of these results, and they all seem good, they all seem professional. Let's say you didn't know which one to pick. How would you make an informed decision about which of these 1,600 to pick from? Reviews, probably. I would look here at star reviews. Okay, this has got a 4.5 stars. That sounds pretty good. Ooh, that's got a 2.5. It sounds pretty bad. I'll probably skip that one. There's another 4 stars over here. Ooh, this has got a 5 stars. Perfect. That's the one I want, right? If I only go by the star review, that might not be the accurate one. I didn't even read what it did. I was just focused on the star review. But let's say there were 2 plugins that their descriptions seemed exactly the same, and one had 5 stars, one had 4 stars. I would still also then look at how many of those reviews. This has 5 stars at 182, and the one up here has less stars, but 3,000 and a half. So I'll write here notes on picking the right plugin. And the right one will be different for everyone. Notes on picking the right plugin. More stars, more better, which is bad grammar. But then we've got more review number, more better. Let's write it right. Much better. So even if we've got one that has less stars than another, how many of those, more of those numbers of reviews are a more accurate representation? Because I see plenty of examples of plugins where it says like 5 stars, 3 ratings. Well, obviously, the person themselves gave themselves 1 star, and then they asked 2 friends to give me 5 stars. So the more stars, the more accurate. So this one's 5 stars, perfect, 172. People then say, well, aren't these fake? Just like, Yelp reviews, aren't Yelp reviews fake? Well, if you discount half of them, do you still have a relevant number? If you discount 75% of them, do you still have a relevant number? If I take half of, let's say, 4,000, what's half of 4,000? 1,000. Half of a 4,000 is 2,000. Half of 1,000. Yes, I'm not a math major, but it looks like some of us are. So 1,000. If we take only 1/4, I would believe 1,000 reviews. Let's say half of them are fake. Let's say half of are fake. I would believe 1,000. If we use that metric, 1/4 out of 70, what's 1/4 out of 70?
15, 14.
Wow. Okay. Divided by 4, right? Yeah. 17.5. So am I going to believe 17.5? Probably not. I could buy those number of reviews, or I can convince 10 of my friends to do a review. So what I'm getting at is the more of the number of reviews, the more accurate the value is. Same thing with Yelp reviews. So if I look at 2 restaurants and one has 5 stars, one has 4 stars, but the 4-star has 7,000 reviews and the 5-star one has 70 reviews, 700 reviews, well, comparatively, again, take 1/4 of them, and I'm being like very conservative about, yeah, 3/4 of them are fake. I think I'm exaggerating a lot. But just to pick a value, 1/4 of them are real, then believe that. Next is more installations. Much better. The more times the plugin has been used. This has got 900,000 usages, and people really hate it, but that happens. 30,000 usage, and stars are better. 700,000, and people don't like it. So why are people using a plugin they don't like? That's funny. So 60,000, 5 stars. Then we've got 2 more things to pay attention to. Is it compatible with your site? That's kind of obvious. I might not even need to spell that out, but there's different versions of WordPress. Just like your computer's software or your phone software, every time you get them, once in a while you get a notification, there's a new update. Press now to reset it. Say, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. So WordPress is similar. in terms of there's like version 4 and then 4.1 and 4.8 and then 5.0. WordPress evolves as well, and usually those updates are for security purposes to make your site more secure and such. So you might have a version of WordPress then that is not compatible with a plugin. Obviously, if it's not compatible, I would highly suggest not to use it, because it might break your site, it might make it vulnerable, it might not have all the features. So that one's a little obvious. We will say, make sure it's compatible. And lastly, check the age of the plugin. Older than 3 months, maybe find another one. Your WordPress software evolves, it has updates, it gets more secure. Plugins are also software that should also be updated and evolve. Who's in charge of updating it and evolving it? The person that created it in their pajamas in the garage. Whoever invented the software is in charge of then updating it. And if they don't update it, then your website is less secure. If their software is not secure, your website is not secure. Because the longer a plugin is out there that exists, the longer the hackers have to try to break it and then hack into your site and steal your credit card information and such. This one has not been updated in 2 months. There's been 2 months for someone to try to figure out the vulnerabilities of this. And in today's age of cybersecurity, we do have to think about there's always someone trying to break things. This one was updated 2 days ago. So just by that metric, most likely this plugin is pretty secure because they are updating it. Yes?
So you have to continue to check even though you already installed the plugin?
WordPress will tell you. This little spinning symbol up here says there are 2 updates. So after you've installed your WordPress and your plugins and your themes and such, WordPress will automatically keep track of what needs an update, and then you can update it. So this one was 3 weeks ago. Are there any here that are like really old? 4 days, 2 months? Again, that's just one kind of rule that I give. 3 months, if it's older than 3 months, that's a quarter of a whole year. 4 months right here. Less than 1,000 people have used it. It's got perfect reviews, but all of them are fake. And then we've got 4 months age here. Easily add e-commerce and a smooth shopping cart. A smooth shopping cart to your website. The most powerful whatever. If it's so powerful, why isn't it updated? Why doesn't it have more reviews? So this is all just to talk about picking the right plugin. Right now, I have a specific plugin we're going to use. But when you leave the class and work on your own site and you want to add a chat feature or a slideshow feature, you're going to need to decide what works best based on this criteria. So we'll see here, because older plugins may be more vulnerable. They may have old code.
Is it easier to delete? Let's say you pick up the bad one and then you want to change it.
Yeah. So adding a plugin is easy, and deleting too. It's pretty easy. I'll show you where you do that. But yeah, there's sort of like independent software enough. Enough of it is independent that it doesn't mess with your own site. You will lose the feature and such, but yeah, adding and removing plugins or themes is very easy. So after all that talk, let's go back to the result of WooCommerce and click Install Now. Similar to a theme, we have the 2 steps. So adding a plugin, find it, click Install, click Activate, and I'll put it caps. You might forget this part. installing it doesn't mean it's working on your site. Installing it just means that the files were copied from the internet onto your site. And notice we can add a plugin that's on the internet onto our site that's not on the internet. Just something to note there. But we've installed it, the software, the code, the extra code has been added to my site. Activate it so it actually does something. Mine's still installing. Okay. So after that, click Activate. You can have as many plugins as you want, but remember to activate. Activate them. Recommendation: don't have plugins installed that you're not using. You're free to try out 3 different plugins for the same task and figure out which one you like the best, and then keep active the one that you like best and deactivate the other ones. I'll show you how to do that. But I would recommend that if you don't have plugins that are being used on your site, remove them, because again, security vulnerability. You have this little piece of code created by someone else that if they're not maintaining it, and your code and that code is still on your site, there could be a way for the bad guys to find out how to break into your site with that code that is no longer secure and it's not even active. But the code is in the site and there's ways to get to it. So there we go. Eventually you should see the button to activate it. Go ahead and click Activate. So I've been doing web design since like 2001. I've been using WordPress maybe since 2010, 11 or so. So I've been doing this stuff for a while. And I've been seeing the evolution of WordPress. I've seen the evolution of the plugins. I've seen the evolution of WooCommerce. Nowadays it has this really cool setup wizard that walks you through various things. In the old days you would click Install, Activate, and then you're kind of on your own to set up the settings. There's a variety of settings we need to set up. We will do that, however, right after the break. If we got up to this point and we see WooCommerce, we're in the right place, we'll take a break. When we come back, I'll walk you through these settings, and we'll have an e-commerce site. It's 10:25, we'll be back at 10:35, and then we'll proceed.